So today, we're going to continue our journey. We're going to look at the basics of science of mind, because I think it's real important that you understand what is the basics of what I talk about every week, so that you become familiar with it, because when you become familiar with it, you can grasp the idea, you can grasp the power, because that's what it is. Science of mind is about bringing the power of science, power of the mind, into awareness within ourselves. And we bring that into the awareness within ourselves. We can begin to use that power and no longer be victims, but we can be creators in our lives, free from our past, realizing that the past is not precedent to the future. The past is just that. The past is the past. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be where we're going. It doesn't have to be where we are today. It was yesterday. It is not today. It is gone. But if we bring it forward in our mind, we're going to continue to have that experience over and over. So we're going to look at the principles of successful living. This is according to the Science of Mind book, according to Ernest Holmes. So I'm really going to, I've been delving deep into Ernest, because he's so clear in how he presents these truths that are prevalent. They're prevalent in all religions. They're prevalent in the ancient studies of Plato and Socrates. They're present in the science. So these things are not just religious, but they're philosophical, they're scientific, they're psychological. They're all of that, and they're practical. That's what I love about the science of mind. It's a practical way of living. Because if it was just theory, why would we come together? We don't need to do that because it doesn't serve us. It doesn't make us change. So here's what Ernest Holmes, the science of mind is based entirely on the supposition that we are surrounded by a universal mind. Did you get that? We are surrounded by a universal mind. In fact, our mind is part of the universal mind. There's only one mind. That mind is God's mind. That mind is perfect. That mind is my mind now. That's the realization. We are surrounded by a universal mind into which we think. So this universal mind, we're thinking into it. We're not just thinking into our individual mind, we're thinking into the universal all mind. So all thoughts, all that's ever happened is in the universal mind, because the universal mind is the storehouse for everything that was thought, will be thought, could be thought. It's all there, okay? As we think into this universal mind, we set a law in motion. Notice the law is capitalized, meaning the law is the aspect of the divine that creates. It's not our individual aspect that we're thinking into that creates. It is the universal aspect of law that creates. So when I'm thinking, it's not a small mind that's creating. It is the infinite mind that creates the whole galaxy, the cosmos. Everything that existed is created through that, and which contains within it unlimited possibility. So what it's saying is that in this universal mind, all things are possible. There are no restrictions. And so we're going to explore that idea of no restrictions today. The law is infinite. The law through which we operate is infinite. But we appear to be finite. This is because we've not evolved into a complete understanding of who we are. Isn't that simple? If we truly knew who we are, we would be more powerful. And so what is the journey? The journey is about becoming more aware. You're not going to grow into it. The power is already in you. Do you get that? The power is already in you. You just got to become aware of the power. It's like electricity. Back in the days of Julius Caesar, electricity existed, but they didn't know how to use it. Today, we take it for granted, but it's always been here. The same thing with gravity. How does gravity work? Gravity always works. This universal law that creates has always worked. We've just not become aware of it, and we haven't learned yet to tune our focus and to really grasp the power that was in it and begin to use it as such. There's no limit to the law, only the understanding of it and its power. So it's understanding that this universal law is more than us. It's infinite. It's a power that nothing can stop. There's nothing to combat it. There's nothing other than it. And then what is our relationship to it? This is what it is. This is what I understand it to mean, to build a personal relationship with God. See, building a personal relationship with God is knowing there's a universal power and presence and taking that power and using that power consciously to create. Because you're using it right now, but chances are you're using it unconsciously. Do you get that? Did you consciously really choose those clothes? Did you really choose those clothes? Or did you just pick out of habit? I want you to know, I chose this outfit. And you may say, why? You don't have very good taste. But I love the way this mustard pops out when I look at myself in the mirror. It was a very conscious, I had to decide between mustard, brown, or tan. And today I wanted to be a sparkle in your eye. But more importantly, I wanted to be a sparkle in my eye. Because the clothes we wear are for what purpose? It creates a feeling within us of who we are in the world. So I don't dress for you, I dress for me. I don't pick out a car for someone else so they can acknowledge, well, he's driving this car. I pick out a car that makes me feel good. When I picked out my wife, and I went to the wife store. Have you ever been to the wife store? There's this store where guys go, and there's all these prototypes of women, and I said, I'll try that one there. I tried that one, but it only lasted a year and a half. This was in college, so I let that one go. I didn't marry that one. I put that one back on the shelf. But then I picked out this model that they call Jean Miller. And I picked out this model, Jean Miller, but they had a sign on it. You can't have this model unless you commit to it. You know? And you know what she did? She tricked me. She chased me until I caught her. Can you even imagine that? You know, back then, men, when we're young, we are not that bright. So anyway, I had moments where I wanted to put her back on the shelf throughout the 45 years we've been married. However, I've kept my agreement with her, and I'm very grateful to that. We were at Amici's yesterday. Do you know, everyone know Amici's restaurant in Carrollton? It's a wonderful little Italian restaurant that's just, it's that type where you go with someone and you can have that thing. And we're sitting there and just having one of our wonderful meals together talking. And I looked at her, and I don't do this, but I very consciously looked at her and said, the best decision I've ever made in my life, that's an apple right there. That's not me getting choked up. The best decision I ever made in my life was to marry you. And the reason was, marrying Jean has given me the power to be me. Now you may ask, how did that happen? Well, she gave me freedom. She has never, ever put a restriction on me in the entire 45 years we've been married. And because there's no restriction, I'm free to be myself. When I can be myself, I'm authentic. When I'm authentic, I'm capable of being loved, and I'm capable of loving myself. I think that's real important to grasp. Now, I want you to know that when I chose her, I was not conscious. I was lustful. Did you hear that? She was on the shelf in that, the wives store, and she had a bikini on. And she looked real good. They didn't forecast pictures of her in a bikini at her current age. But what I'll say to you is, the bikini is marketing, but it's false advertising. And we've gotten caught up in false advertising. The advertising we're seeking is, what is the heart? How can we more express the heart? Because when we're looking in that store of the wives store or the husband store, we'll make this an equal opportunity center. You want to see the heart. And you want to know, does that heart connect with me? Does that heart there, will that heart give me freedom? Will that heart support and grow me? And am I willing to support and grow with it? That's what we're looking for. We must become more if we wish to draw greater good into our lives. Do you hear that? You don't just keep asking for something. You've got to become more. So the great example that I'd love to use here is, if you want to become wealthy, you must become like a wealthy person. Here's a simple thing about a wealthy person. A wealthy person saves and invests before they spend. Did you hear that? Poor people spend, and then when they're done, there's nothing left, and they don't invest, and they don't save. Wealthy people, before they ever spend any money, they save and they invest. They want to make sure they're using that money to work for them. Unwealthy people spend. In fact, it's gotten to the point where unwealthy people tend to be the majority of the people in the world, the majority of the people in this country are in debt up to here. What is debt? Modern day slavery. It's an unconscious choice we've made by what? Faulty advertising that we bought into, that we can have the wealthy experience now by going into debt, but we didn't realize that once the bikini looked good at the initial, 5 years later, the car looked like crap. It's a depreciating asset. So if you have a Jaguar, and you spend $70,000 on a Jaguar, realize in 5 years that vehicle may be worth $20,000. But if you took and bought a $30,000 vehicle, invested $40,000, what would that money be in 5 years? And where would that money be in 30 years? You'd be a millionaire. See, there's a difference. You see, that's a wealthy person. So you must become more to attract more. And it's not that you attract it, you put in place everything that draws it to you. It's not like, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, I talk it, there's a check in the mail. That's what they said in The Secret. That don't work. That's nonsense. Get over that. How you become a millionaire is you find your gift. You find a way to give it to people where you're being of service, where the service that you're providing has value. They give you back the value of your service, and the more you serve, the more value you get back. And then when you get the value, you invest it. Does it make sense? So you become that person. We provide the mold for the creative law, and unless the mold we provide is increased, substance cannot be increased into our lives. So this morning when you got up, did you think about, what am I going to create today that's more than what I've had before? Probably not. So today's going to unfold by the law of averages. You're going to have an average experience based on your average thoughts. It's a conscious choice. You've got to consciously be focusing on, what more can I express today? What more can I bring into my life? It's a conscious, you've got to provide the mold that causes for what? It causes us to think outside the box, and it causes us to imagine. We've got to come back to this idea of imagination. That's what keeps the conversation juiced. There's nothing worse than watching a couple do the same thing over and over again and say, my life is boring. Imagine something and bring it into the relationship. Imagine in your relationship whipped cream. Where did you go? I was thinking about building a dessert. And Sedgel, I'm looking at you and you're the guiltiest one in this place. Every person must pay the price for what they receive, and the price is paid in mental and spiritual coin. Notice I bolded this one. I bolded this one because this is really critical. There's a spiritual coin that you have to present here. That coin is, how much effort are you going to make into shifting your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your feeling on a persistent and consistent basis? Because that requires work. That is building a new habit of thought, anchoring it into your life every day, every moment, as often as you can. And when you invest that type of coin, your result is guaranteed. I've had people come up to me and say, Reverend Lee, there's a spot in the back of your head where there's no hair. And they said, why don't you use the power to create some hair in the back of your head? If this power is infinite, couldn't it grow hair in the back of your head? The key thing is, I don't want to invest the coin into it. I'm investing the coin into something else that I want more. The hair is not that important to me. Does that make sense? There's so many other things that are important in my life. That's where I'm putting my money. My money is what? My spiritual coin. Do you hear that? My money is my spiritual coin. So when people aren't demonstrating, you can look at people and say, why aren't you demonstrating here? It's because they've not made the decision to invest their spiritual coin in that aspect of their life. Now, can they change that aspect? Yes. All they have to do is invest some coin. That coin is not money, it's consciousness. As much life as we can conceive is what will become a part of our experience. We have no limitation, absolutely no limitation. One of the affirmations that I use every day is, my body functions at the level of a healthy, virile, 25-year-old male athlete. Why? Because I want to function that way as long as I'm in this body. I want to enjoy this body. I want movement. I want to be able to explore, to expand, and to experience life in all of its fullness. I don't want to be limited like I watch all these people as they get old. Their limitations come into play because they've not set a conscious intention about health. And this, I'm not just talking about health here, I'm talking about every aspect of life. This is from the Bible. Whatever a person sows, they shall reap. Whatever you plant, whatever your spiritual coin that you put in, you reap that spiritual coin. Whatever you're investing in, your thoughts, words, action, and feelings are really investments. Do you get that? So if you're putting your thought, words, actions, and feelings toward a specific result, you're investing into that result, and then once you've really put it in, what happens? The investment pays off. But it's not a slot machine. A slot machine means by chance. This is guaranteed because this law works. It's science. What is right and what is wrong? We must take time every day to see our life as we wish it to be and to make a picture of our ideal. So I would venture to say that there are many areas of our life. There's the financial, the emotional, the mental, there's the job, there's the relationship, there's the spiritual. I've missed a few, but that's okay. Look at all the aspects of your life. What do you want in that life? What do you want with a life partner? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What do you want with friends? What does that look like? What does it feel like? What do you want with a connection with the universal intelligence that you are? What do you want from a money standpoint? What do you want from a house, a car? What do you want from the type of health that you've got? You've got to imagine it. But don't imagine it the way it is. Imagine it as more. And then start thinking about it more and more every day. That's how you start your day. We erase thought from consciousness by pouring in the opposite thought. This is contrary to what psychologists and psychiatry do. They want you to go in and relive the old over and over and over and over. And when you're reliving the old over and over and over again, what are you doing? You're implanting the same thought over and over again, which means you're going to have the same experience over and over again, Groundhog Day. The way you get over it is you plant a new thought. And you feed the new thought. And with your attention going to the new thought, not on the old disappears and the new takes over it. But it's work. You've got to water it. You've got to tend it. You've got to care for that new plant. The criteria to what is right and what is wrong is not found in someone else's judgment. We've bought into this lie, this nonsense, hook, line, and sinker. We listen to Fox News, we listen to CNN, we listen to this and that about what's right and wrong. We listen to our parents. I know some of you are older, but your parents are going on in your mind even though they may have died. Those old thought patterns are going on, and Sedgel, you're again the guiltiest one here because she's smiling really big. Because her mom's just there going, you ever have that thought? I still get that, and my mother's been dead 7 years. I have to remember, her thoughts limited her. I don't want that same limitation in my life. So my father's in assisted living, and he's been there now for, God, almost 9 months. In fact, it might be in 2 weeks they're going to re-examine him and take him out of hospice because they don't think he's going to die for a while now. I think that's so hoot. So I called up his partner, Dixie, yesterday because my dad can't hear when I call. He's deaf. And I said, Dixie, would you ask my dad if I think I'm going to come and visit him from Monday, April 13th to Friday, April 19th. Would you ask him if he's going to be alive? Because if he is, I'm going to schedule a trip to visit him. Because I wanted to know what my dad's intent was. So I get a call last night after I went to bed from my dad. And he can't hear, but he can leave a voicemail. And his voice is garbled and this type of thing. But the voicemail goes, Lee, I hear you're coming to visit me in April. I really am glad you're coming. I want to see you. But the real reason for my call is, where's the money you were going to send me? He forgets we've had conversations where we've resolved all those issues. But you've got to be present and understand that's where he's at. You see, everyone's at a different place. And we've got to understand where they're at. I listened to that voicemail this morning and I just laughed. I said, it's just like dealing with a child. Because when a child gets a thought in their mind, do they let it go? No. When I wanted a little bike, my first 2-wheel bike with training wheels, I went on and on and on and on. And my dad, when we were brought up, we were poor. My dad went to the junkyard, found this bike, took it to the fire station. He was a fireman. They took it apart, painted it these god-awful colors, put it all back together, had 2 different types of training wheels. They couldn't find matching ones. And that was my first bike. But I didn't care because it was my bike. Do you remember when you were 16? What did you want most in the world at 16? A car. It didn't matter what kind. You wanted a car because the car meant what? Exactly, freedom. That's what we're seeking all the time. When Gina and I were married, we had to get a second car. This is 1973. My father says, I got a deal for you. It was a 1962 Ford Falcon, red, rusted all through for $100. The price was right. Dad took that car just like he did to the fire station. They took the seats out, the carpeting out. They went to the secondhand store, bought this god-awful gold putrid carpeting, carpeted the thing, carpeted the seats. I mean, you looked at it, but what was it? It gave us freedom. Jean could go to work in her place in school. I could go to school and work in my place. You see, it wasn't what it looked like, it was what it did for us. That's what's important. We're looking in our lives for things that help us to go places, to be things. It doesn't have to be perfect based on other people's standards. Don't buy into other people's standards. Take a step in the direction. If that step is a 1962 Ford Falcon, God bless you. There were many a night I was stalled on the side of the road and had to get a jump. Does this thing I wish to express, does this thing I wish to do express more life, more happiness, more peace to myself, and at the same time does no harm to others? This is what's right. When you're expressing the good, more life, more joy, more peace, more beauty, and it's not at the expense of others, now you know what's right. That's the question you ask yourself. But if you're trying to take away from others, you don't understand the God principle because you think there's not enough. You think you've got to have it from somewhere else when there's an infinite supply out there. All you've got to do is become a match to it. So my slide went a little crazy here, but that's okay. We do not exist for the purpose of making an impression on the environment. Do you hear that? You're not here to please others. You're not here to leave a legacy. You're here to live fully, completely now. You're not here to leave a legacy for your children. Do you hear that, Stephen? That's my son in the back. I'm not here to leave him a legacy. He's here to create his own legacy. I'm here to create my legacy, which is my experiencing my life to its very fullness. We do not exist to express ourselves in and through our environment. No, we need to express ourselves as we are. We're enough. Do you get that? We are enough. All that means anything is that we live. To be fully alive. What does to be fully alive? Means to create. Do you get that? It's not doing the same thing over again. It's to be out to create new. And it can be really small, but just something new every day, something new, an expansion, an awareness, taking a relationship with someone to a higher level, taking a relationship with another someone to a higher level. We were at that memorial yesterday at the Frisco Chamber, and it was wonderful. I took Jean with me. She hadn't met any of these people. So they got to meet Jean. She got to experience the energy at the chamber with all these beautiful people. It was an up-leveling in my relationship with them because they saw me with my partner. It was up-leveling in Jean's because she got to see who I was associating with, and it created an energy that everyone around got to be a part of. See, it's about an expansion. It's about a creation. Very simple, but that works. That's expanding and creating new. Question is, what are you going to create new today? Do you even want to create new today? Do you understand that the power to create is within you? Next week, I'm going to have a special gift for you. I'm going to outline your spiritual practice that if you do it for a month, your life will change. I'm going to give you everything you need. You will walk out of here that you'll be able to do 30 days of spiritual practice in ways that you've not done. So I highly invite you to come. Invite your friends. Those of you who are out there watching on YouTube, come to Agape, because that's the only way you're going to get it, is you come to Agape next Sunday. Let's go within.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.